Welcome to AITS Podcast on AI Security. In this episode, you will learn how a hacker maintains persistence and initiates privilege escalation to effectively attack AI systems. Let's get started.
Ever feel like, like someone's watching you online? Well, today's deep dive is all about those creepy feelings, but with AI.
Okay.
We're looking at how attackers can actually burrow their way into AI systems,
right,
and become these permanent unwelcome guests.
Yeah, it's the kind of AI security threat that, may not grab headlines,
right,
a robot uprising, but the implications are far more unsettling.
Right.
Because they're happening right now.
Exactly. We're talking about vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
That could let someone manipulate these systems from the inside out.
Totally.
Take backdoor models, for example.
Sure.
It's a sneaky tactic that's scarily effective.
Yeah.
Think of it like this.
Sure.
What if someone trained a facial recognition system to do its job, but also secretly grant access to anyone wearing, say, a specific type of baseball cap?
It's like a secret password.
Right.
Hardwired right into the AI's decision-making, except this password is like a visual cue.
Okay.
And what's worse, these triggers can be so subtle that they're practically invisible to anyone who doesn't know what to look for.
Yeah.
One study showed an AI generating different code, either secure or vulnerable, just based on the year it was asked about.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the possibilities for manipulation if someone wanted to exploit that.
That's unsettling. It really makes you think twice about all those smart systems we rely on.
Yeah, definitely.
And it gets even more unnerving when you consider prompt injection persistence.
Yeah, this is where things get especially interesting.
Yeah.
Imagine someone slipping a note into a suggestion box.
Okay.
But this note is designed to subtly influence all future suggestions.
That's interesting.
That's the essence of prompt injection.
Okay. I'm picturing those suggestion boxes at restaurants.
Right.
Where people drop in ideas for new dishes.
Sure.
Is this like someone sneaking in a suggestion that's so catchy?
Yeah.
The chef keeps putting variations of it on the menu without realizing it?
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
Except instead of a menu, we're talking about the core functions of an AI system.
Right.
Researchers found a way to craft a prompt that essentially overrides an AI's safety protocols.
Interesting.
Making it ignore its built-in safeguards.
Wow.
It's like handing someone a master key to bypass all the locks.
So even if the AI is programmed to be safe and ethical, someone could slip in a prompt to make it go rogue.
Exactly.
That's a chilling thought.
And this isn't just theoretical.
Okay.
Think about those large language models that power chatbots and virtual assistants.
Right.
A well-placed prompt could subtly bias their responses, feeding you misinformation.
Yeah.
Or even prompting them to leak confidential data without you ever suspecting a thing.
Wow. It's like having a seemingly trustworthy assistant who's secretly working for someone else.
Right.
That's a bit terrifying. But what about attackers who aren't content with just manipulating an AI's responses?
Sure.
What if they want to control the whole system?
So that's where things escalate even further, literally.
Okay.
We call it modifying system processes. And it's essentially like changing the locks on the AI's control room.
Right.
Instead of just sneaking in, they're taking over the entire house.
Okay, so they're changing the locks.
Right.
Meaning even if you kick them out, they can just waltz right back in.
That's the idea.
Okay.
Attackers might tamper with the instructions that tell the AI how to start up,
right,
guaranteeing their malicious code is always running in the background.
Okay.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine if every time you restarted your computer, a hidden program automatically reinstalled itself, even if you deleted it 100 times.
That sounds incredibly frustrating and a little terrifying, to be honest.
Yeah.
But how is that even possible?
Right.
I mean, don't these systems have safeguards against that kind of thing?
They do, but there are always weaknesses that can be exploited. A while back, there was this vulnerability called Dirty CKW.
Right.
Don't worry about the name.
Okay.
That affected the Linux operating system, which powers a huge chunk of the internet.
Linux, isn't that what a lot of servers and backend systems use?
Precisely.
Okay.
Now, this Dirty CKW flaw allowed attackers to essentially rewrite the rulebook of the system.
Wow.
They could gain the highest level of access, modify critical files, and basically do whatever they wanted.
So using that sneaky backdoor they created, they could then stage a complete coup d'etat of the entire system.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it gets even more complex when you think about how we're now using AI in things like self-driving cars and medical devices,
Right.
the stakes are much higher than just losing data. We're talking about potential risks to safety and security in the physical world.
This is definitely giving me a lot to think about next time I get in a self-driving car.
Yeah.
But before we go full Black Mirror here,
Sure.
let's bring it back to something a bit more relatable.
Okay.
You mentioned attackers changing the locks on the AI's control room.
Right.
That makes me think of those classic heist movies where they hack into the mainframe and suddenly have control over the entire building.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And just like in those movies, there are different levels of access an attacker might aim for.
Okay.
Vertical privilege escalation is when they want it all. Admin rights, full control,
Okay.
like becoming the digital dictator.
Okay, so going from sneaking in the back door
Yeah.
to straight up seizing the throne.
Exactly.
What about this horizontal privilege escalation you mentioned earlier? Is that where they're taking hostages in the server room or something?
Not quite.
Okay.
Think of it as moving sideways, not upwards. It's about gaining access to something you shouldn't have permission to see or use,
Right.
even if you're not trying to become the ultimate ruler.
So maybe not becoming the dictator, but at least getting the keys to the executive washroom.
Right.
Still pretty powerful depending on what's in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these vulnerabilities can crop up in the most unexpected places.
Okay.
Remember those Docker containers I mentioned earlier, those self-contained software packages?
Yeah, those little digital boxes that hold everything an AI model needs to run.
Researchers found a way to exploit them so that even if you restarted the entire system, the attacker's malicious code would automatically download and reactivate itself. It's like having a virus that knows how to reinfect your computer no matter how many times you clean it.
So even with all these security measures in place, these systems are still vulnerable. That's a sobering thought.
And it highlights how attackers are constantly evolving their methods.
Right.
They're always looking for new and creative ways to exploit these systems, which is why staying ahead of the game is so important.
Okay, I'm all for staying ahead of the game, but
Yeah.
how can we do that when it feels like the rules are constantly changing?
Right.
Are there any real-world examples of how this is playing out? So we're not just talking about hypotheticals. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
And it's honestly a bit overwhelming.
Right.
I'm starting to feel like I should just disconnect from everything and
Yeah.
live off the grid.
I can understand the feeling, but luckily it hasn't come to that.
Okay.
The good news is that awareness is a powerful tool.
Right.
Even without being cybersecurity experts,
Sure.
we can all take steps to protect ourselves
Okay.
and push for better security measures.
Okay. So besides investing in a good tinfoil hat,
Right.
what can we do?
Sure.
I'm guessing most of our listeners, like me, aren't exactly coding whizzes.
And that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
It starts with being informed.
Okay.
The more we understand about these vulnerabilities,
Right.
the better equipped we are to spot potential risks and make informed decisions.
Right.
It's like learning about scams.
Right.
Once you know how they work, you're less likely to fall for them.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So knowledge is our first line of defense.
exactly.
What else can we do on a practical level?
Well, those good digital hygiene habits we hear about all the time are more important than ever.
Right.
Strong passwords, being cautious about suspicious links
Right.
and emails, those things really do make a difference.
Right. Like not clicking on that "you won the lottery"
Yeah.
pop-up for the millionth time.
Exactly.
It's tempting, but probably not a good idea.
Exactly. And on a broader scale,
Yeah.
we need to start demanding more transparency and accountability from the companies and organizations developing and deploying these AI systems.
So putting pressure on them to make security a top priority, not just an afterthought.
Precisely. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives,
Right.
we need to ensure that security keeps pace.
Yeah.
It's not about being afraid of AI, but rather about using it responsibly and safely.
It's like anything else. With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. And it's a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
Developers, policymakers,
Yeah.
and everyday users all have a role to play in shaping a future where AI is used ethically and securely.
Well said.
Yeah.
So if there's one big takeaway from our deep dive today,
Right.
it's that AI security is everyone's business.
Yes.
Thanks to these sources and your insights,
Of course.
I feel like I've gained a much better understanding of the challenges
Right.
and what's at stake.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Remember, knowledge is power.
Right.
And by staying informed and engaged, we can all contribute to creating a safer and more secure AI-powered future.
Absolutely. And on that note,
Right.
we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of AI security.
Sounds good.
Until next time,
Yes.
stay curious, stay vigilant, and as always, thanks for diving in with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of AITS Podcast on AI Security. If you would like to learn more or would like to have a session for your team, please drop us an email on training@alisad.cloud. Learn more about us on our website, alisad.cloud, that is ALASAD, CLOUD.